Hello and welcome back to Jacqueline Marie's Art. Thank you for tuning in. I just wanted to ask you guys to please like, subscribe, and share if you enjoy the content. And please drop your comments because I really enjoy reading them. And I'll try my best to respond to as much as I can, if not all, okay? Thank you. Okay, so today I wanted to talk about this is Fornication Nightmares, Men's Edition, Series 1. I'm going to be doing a lot of these because there's so many stories or so many incidences where people have gotten mixed up in this sex out of marriage con game and have really suffered, you know, some misfortunes behind it. And we really need to start looking into them. I know when these misfortunes takes place, nobody ever says it's because of the fornication, because it's kind of like, this spirit, it hides itself. It's behind all these problems, but it has become a master of disguising itself so that nobody ever really suspected, when it happens. It's like, oh, she was crazy, or he was crazy, or he was too possessive. Oh, people don't know when to let go. Or, there's always some other explanation given besides the spirit that's fueling, the fire behind this destructive force. So this channel, we expose this spirit, and we expose how, when you engage with it, how it manifest into your life in a very negative way that could have very detrimental effects, that could affect you in ways that you don't want to. It could rob you of very valuable things. Actually, it will rob you of very valuable things that you really need, like your sanity, your peace of mind, your babies, your marriage, a relationship where you're happy, sex and marriage. It robs you of all sorts of ways. It robs you of your life, your actual life, where you die before your time. So it has no good intentions for you. It is packaged really nicely. I see the packaging all the time. It's very dazzling. It's very inviting. It's very seductive. It's very alluring, and it draws men and women alike. It is gender neutral, so nobody is really immune. Everybody is attracted to it because it's gender neutral. It's not like, oh, just women goes through that, or just men. No, it affects everyone, both sexes. It's totally gender neutral, and it is a destructive force, and it's high time that it's been exposed for what it really is, the force behind a lot of your heartaches in relationships, why relationships can't prosper, why people have trouble getting married, why there is no why there's so much discord in relationships, why there's so much animosity between the sexes, why men hate women, why women hate men, why everyone just wants to get even though with all of this going on, we're still attracted to each other, but we can't get along, and we don't know what is the cancer, that's in between, that's really wedged in between, that's causing all this, heartache and animosity and downfall and discord. Okay, so this one, I wanted to talk about. This is the men's edition, and this is series 1. This is about a friend of mine that I knew. He grew up, actually, he was born in Florida. Let me see. Well, how did this go? He was born there. So he told me about some girlfriend that he had then in Florida. And he said before he got with her, she had a boyfriend already. And, he took her from that boyfriend. Okay. And when he took her from the boyfriend, I don't think it was very difficult to take her from the boyfriend. It happened, in a relatively quick way. He was really good looking. He was tall and nice looking. Something. He had looks that women liked. Women liked him. He was attractive. And after this girl that he took from her boyfriend, she was a little crazy. she had a spirit of madness on her. She wasn't completely crazy, but she was a little off. And but she was attractive, but a functioning so-called crazy person or whatever. They have those where they're like, they're touched in the head, but they're functional. You could talk to them, have conversations, and they're coherent and they understand you, you understand them. So she had mental illness, but not, it was like a mild form. It wasn't very intense, like out of her mind, totally. And after a while, of sleeping with her, he became mentally ill. All right. Keep in mind, this is not his wife. It's just some hot chick that he saw he wanted. He took from the boyfriend, fell head over heels for her. He even said that was probably like his first love. And from what I gather, I would say that was his only love. He really, really loved her. So he slept with her. And after a while, you know, he became mentally ill because I even saw a bus driver that I knew one day, and the bus driver was like, he just volunteered this information to me. He was like, after he started going out with that girl, he was just never the same. He was just like, off after that. But the mental illness that he picked up from her, he was pretty far gone with it. He had to take medication. They call it in the science community schizophrenia. That's a fancy word, or that's a scientific name for a demonic possession, okay? So the bus driver told me that after, he saw him with this girl, and, he's like, oh, after I saw him with the girl, he was never the same. He was just like, he just started acting strange. He wasn't normal anymore. I was like, okay. And then he had to get after a while he had to take medicine for his schizophrenia. Like, he had to, his whole life he had to live on the medicine. He was now having to take prescription medicine, at least 3 or 4, to subdue this evil spirit that he picked up from the girl through illicit sex. You understand? So they broke up. Fast forward, they broke up. He went on with his life, and he had it tough from there on. He does the way the evil spirit maneuvered itself in his life. He couldn't keep a job. He was always, he was qualified for a lot of jobs. He was actually an electrician by trade. He worked at MCI at the time when it was like around or so. I was it no I think it was AT&T. I'm sorry, it was AT&T. He worked at, he had good jobs, but I noticed a pattern with him. Whenever he got a job, like a week or a month later, he always lost a job. He never could hold a job after that. He always lost his job. He couldn't keep a job. He was always getting fired, and he would just keep trying, and it was just pretty bad for him. And then it spiraled off, it spiraled downhill, where he started to take drugs, and he just got addicted, and then he couldn't stop. He would, quit or get a break. He'd go into rehab. He'd call up and say, hey, remember me? Of course I remember you. You're my good friend. And, he'd be like, I'm in rehab. I'm like, okay. And then, he'd be a little better. And then he'd relapse in the drugs. And, eventually the drugs took his life. And also, I want to touch on this story. His parents had him in fornication, right? So this is also, he got hit with the double-edged sword of fornication. He got hit with curses of fornication from his own fornication and also from his parents' fornication, because this spirit followed him so much that when his mother took him, he had like some fair at his school, and they came up to his mom and said, he has potential to be such and such and such in the army. Send him to the army, because he's born out of wedlock. His father is not in the picture, so the curse of fornication is following him, unfortunately. So, or the demon of fornication has been following him from before he was born. So they told the mother, put him into the army and he could get such and such and become and make like $100,000 a year. So, since life is spiritual, I'm following the patterns of his life. I believe the spirit deterred his mother from sending him to the army, where he would have learned, since he's born out of wedlock, he doesn't have a father figure. So, he lacks structure and discipline, which is why a father and a mother is important in marriage, because the father would instill the discipline, in a young man, to pick up his responsibilities. So, the mother said, no, go to your aunt's house instead. You shouldn't go to the army because you could get killed. So I believe he should have went to the army, because since he was born out of wedlock, he needed to have some responsibilities instilled in him. He wasn't very responsible. What else? So he went to his aunt's house and he spiraled out of control. He was in and out of prison. He couldn't keep a job, but I knew that was a spiritual thing. I knew this spirit was attacking his life, and what else? Eventually, he ended up, like I said, he ended up in the drugs and he died before his time. But I remember before he died, I saw him and I was like, let's give your life to Jesus Christ. I was like, before you die, get saved, because he'd get saved. And since, he was sick, but still a functioning mental person, with his medicine, he would still pray. He'd still go to church. He never got delivered from the curses. One time I had a dream and the Lord showed me in the dream that he was going to save him, and the Lord showed me twice in two dreams that, he was going to die. So, I told him and I was like, I dreamt that you were going to die. And a year later he did. And I said to him, make sure that you give your life to Christ. And I saw him before he passed, and he was, he came by and he came to say hello. And I was like, let's pray for you, and he's like, okay. Because he was always interested in going to church, even though he had so many problems. And I prayed for him and he got saved, and then I heard, his aunt had called me and was like, he died. And I was like, yeah, okay. I was expecting it. I just didn't know when he was going to die. I was just expecting, because I had dreamt about it. So, so I'm just saying, was a good friend of mine, somebody I really loved and cared about. They struggled. I didn't see them much. They were like, I'd see them, so, I have my own life. They got their own life. I'd see them whenever they were around. They'd give me a call, whenever they remember me, they would say hi, because a lot of people come to me sometimes for coaching, I guess, but his coaching was free because he wasn't doing well. So yeah, he passed on, and he was fortunate enough to give his life to the Lord Jesus Christ before he died. And that's the only thing I was happy about his death, was that he was able to give his life to the Lord. And a lot of times, he was always having money problems. Even though he was smart, he had what it took to get over $100,000 job, $100,000 a year job. But since this spirit attached itself to him through his parents' fornication, through his own fornication, he was not going to prosper. Because like I said, the thief has come to kill, steal, and destroy. And he lost, the spirit attacked him mentally. But, the Lord did it in a way that he didn't take his whole mind. He only took some of it because he was still functioning with the medicine. But it robbed him of his future. You understand what I'm trying to say? It robbed him of his future. It robbed him of his destiny. Because one time I was talking to him and he was telling me that, he was in a car with his friend going to go sign up for college. This is some other time after his mom had sent him away. And he said that the car revered off the road, and crashed, and he didn't make it to sign up, to further his education. I said to myself, yeah, I know, because the spirit of fornication, which is a curse on your life, is following you. I said to myself, so keep in mind, guys, I'm telling this story and it sounds like science fiction, but it's not. Life is spiritual, and one of the greatest ways that the enemy could come into your life or your child's life and destroy it is through your sex. Okay? This is why this is stressed so heavily on this channel, because this is a destructive force. Many of young ladies and young men have lost their destinies through sex out of marriage. A lot of women, men have used them for sacrifices through sex. After they slept with these men, they were never the same. Their vaginas had a foul odor. No, this is not a venereal disease we're talking about. This is a spiritual issue, where they couldn't be with another man. They had discharges. No doctor could figure out what's wrong with them. The doctor looked at them and the doctor said, oh, you're fine. Or a lot of young men, they turn worthless behind this. You understand? They became completely ruined. So this doesn't happen to everyone. This is just scenarios, but I'm saying this is high risk behavior. It's not just high risk for, STDs. It's high risk for demons. Send STD. There's another form of STD. You heard it before, sexually transmitted demons. So this is the other end of the spectrum that's not heavily spoken about, that a lot of people don't know that's behind all of this. A lot of times you hear some young person has died and gone on, and they're like, oh, this, and this, but that's really what's behind it. So this is why I heavily discourage this activity on this channel, because it is so destructive. And if you can avoid getting entangled with this activity, which is governed by this spirit known as the spirit of fornication, you, young man, young woman, you'll be ahead of the curve, and you could beat this thing at its own game. I know it is so, this stuff is so seductive. It is just seducing. It has a heavy dose of seduction attached to it. So it seduces people. People think, oh, this is awesome. She looks great. Oh, it's, he's hot. I like him. This is seduction, but it's demonic seduction. You just get seduced out of your future. You get seduced out of having your children. You get seduced out of your marriage. You get seduced out of having a good job. You get seduced out of peace. You get seduced out of peace of mind. You get seduced out of financial, whatever, wealth or blessings. You get seduced out of your good thing. You're enjoying yourself, but you don't know what you're paying for that enjoyment. It is really in your benefit, boys and girls, meaning men and women, to wait for the right person. All right? It will be so much better for you than this short, quick fix. Everybody is like jumping off the cliff, jumping in head first, and crashing and burning at an alarming rate. It is darkening people's spirit, is enraging people, making people bitter, dark, hateful, vengeful towards the opposites, like selfish, and just want to get even. So it's not worth it, okay? So that's it about this one. My friend, rest in peace. I could actually say rest in peace because he did give his life to Christ before he passed on. All right. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye.